Welcome to Oddball. I'm Amin Elhassan from my palatial studio in Miami, Florida. That over there is Izzy Gutierrez, still plotting the takeover of the family. Godfather 2 reference. We got a great show for you guys. We got a packed show. So much to get to. But first, the video that went viral last night, Ja Morant going elevating and detonating, to quote my guy, Tom Leander, over Victor Wembanyama. We can't show you guys the video because we don't have the rights, but there's a picture of it. It was pretty amazing. Didn't count Izzy because it was called, the foul was whistled on the floor. Oh, there's another picture. That one's even better. That's like a logo right there, right?
It would be if it counted.
Well, Izzy, I have another reason why it didn't count, even if they didn't blow the whistle. He didn't touch the rim. Not a dunk.
Yeah.
It's
See,
an
I think we
layup.
should have the rights to anything that doesn't actually count, right? If it was just happening after the whistle, then why can't we show it?
Like
this is why I don't even like this whole conversation, because if it in the history of the NBA, you're going to remember this dunk 20 years from now. You can be like, wow, that was a crazy dunk. Didn't count. Last night, I was watching it on social and I was like, that's crazy. Showing it to all my friends. 30 minutes later, I was like, I regret showing you guys that because it didn't count. It was just a BS dunk and it wasn't even a dunk.
So let me ask you, Izzy, are you one of these people that when you watch a highlight or when you watch a game and like someone does an amazing like crossover and the guy falls down, everyone goes crazy, and then throws a no-look pass through the defender's legs, and everyone goes crazier. And then the big man catches it and he either fumbles it or misses the layup. You are of the belief this cannot be shown in highlight reels.
I am of the belief that, yes, it is false advertisement. I believe that if you show the crossover and you don't show the end of the play, I will always assume it didn't end well.
Oh, no. But there are some people who say you shouldn't even show the crossover. No matter how amazing the play was, the fact that it did not end up with a made basket means that it is null and void. This doesn't count towards the highlights.
I speak for the history of the NBA. For the history of the NBA, you should not have these shown as highlights because, again, 30 years from now, they'll be like, wow, that Ja dunk on Wemby was amazing. Didn't actually happen.
The greatest Sports Illustrated cover ever was Vince Carter in college dunking over, I want to say Travis Spivey of Georgia Tech. And it was crazy because that dunk never actually happened. He went up and he got fouled, so he never completed the dunk. But the still shot is amazing. It's a great Sports Illustrated cover. All right, let's move on really quick to Clippers-Nets. The Clippers blew out the Nets by 59 points, Izzy. 126-67. That's not a typo. That is a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. At the end of the third, the Clippers had doubled the score of the Nets, 102-51. Yeah. There you go. That's from the DraftKings account. Nets were on the second night of a back-to-back, so let's feel sorry for them. Simmons, Cam Johnson, and D'Lo were all DMPs versus LA. This is the worst loss in Nets history. Big shocker there. Izzy.
I mean, it wasn't too long ago that I remember listening to NBA radio and Brian Scalabrine, I think it was second week of the season, saying the Nets were like low-key his favorite League Pass team. They were fun to watch. You got Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Nick Claxton, Dorian Finney-Smith. It's like, wow, this team. And then you realize, oh, no, they're not trying to win. So all the good players gone, just rest them, injure them, whatever you got to do.
Trade
and now
them.
we're left with, what are we left with? Because I feel like you look at that box score, you have no idea if they're real NBA players.
This is how I've described it. If you've ever played franchise mode on Madden or on NBA 2K, and at some point, like 3 seasons in, you have 3 seasons of people who are now drafted into the league who aren't real people. They're NPCs, basically. And there's these random names. And that's what watching a Nets game is like. It's like, are you real? Is this a real person or is this computer generated?
Let's figure this out. Let's have those producers give us 2 fake names and 1 real name that played yesterday in this Brooklyn Nets blowout and see if we can figure out who the real Net is.
Okay. I like this
game.
Let's do it.
All right. We've got, Tyrese Martin, David Denman, and Grant Ellis. I have no shot here.
Full disclosure. I know the answer.
Okay.
And the reason I know the answer is this guy, shockingly, it was actually pretty good. Like I've watched a bunch of Nets games. I was watching Nets, Nets Pistons, I think the other day. And no, Nets Jazz, the one where Isaiah Collier didn't give up the ball and they had an 8-second count. But the player whose name is listed here, I'm not going to give away.
Okay, then I'll guess it because I have a feeling I've heard this name before, although I could be combining 2 players. Tyrese Martin.
You're right. It is Tyrese Martin.
I was mixing Tyrese Halliburton with Caleb Martin right there, but hey, it worked.
Oh, you know what's funny? They actually gave us real names of real people. I guess David Denman is Roy from The
Oh, look
Office.
at that.
Grant Ellis is going to be the next Bachelor. Will he be able to find love?
Probably not. Spoiler alert.
Weird. Because Tyrese Smart, like I said, he's actually good. Like he's a great shooter, but he's shown with all the injuries and all the trades and so now with more opportunities. Like I'm not just a shooter; I can put it on the floor. I'm a decent passer, and he started for the Nets last night. Let's play it again. Give us three more.
Woo, we got Mariska Hargitay or something like that. Hargitay. We've got Tosan Evbuomwam and Samson Ekubam. And I'm going to go with C because it's the easiest one to say.
I'm going to tell you right now, it is not C, it is B because the guy's name, while watching that Nets Jazz game, I was like, what? Like, because
is it backwards? Is his name backwards?
It's
I think his name's backwards.
In a funny way. Samson Ebukam is an NFL player? He plays for the Colts. There you go. And Marissa Hargis, yes, I knew that. She's Olivia Benson from Law & Order. That one I knew. As soon as I saw her name.
What a weird name, Izzy. Mariska.
Get some national TV.
All right, let's move on to some real news, real basketball players here. And I know everybody's kind of sick of talking about it, but Jimmy Butler, the news is about to get super interesting because that suspension's over. And they play the Nuggets next in Miami. And a couple of new things have come out this week, but we'll start with this one. On the Dan Le Batard show, Chris Haynes said that Pat Riley was informed that a face-to-face was necessary with Jimmy after all that went down. It never materialized. They didn't communicate via text, phone conversation, or face-to-face. I mean, is this a big deal?
It's a massive deal, right? I remember years and years ago, I was on The Jump and Ramona Shelburne, we led the show. Ramona Shelburne was on the show, and she broke the news that Magic Johnson and Luke Walton, who was the head coach at the time, Magic Johnson was the president of the team, hadn't spoken in 2 weeks. And I was like, that is shocking because the regular rhythms of a basketball operation, those guys are talking all the time, multiple times a day, but all sorts of things. So the fact that the head coach wasn't talking to the president or vice versa, that was a huge red flag to me. This is that magnified times 1,000 because it's one thing to go 2 weeks. You could say, well, I had some scouting trips and we just haven't caught up to each other, whatever. It's another thing when you say, hey, the season's over. This guy wants an extension. We're not even going to discuss in any way. You're not going to have any conversations from, let's just conservatively say, from the end of the season, which was in April, until January 1st, when you brought him into your office about not playing hard enough. That is an absurd amount of time to say incommunicado. Not, I didn't get to see him face to face.
And yet they still came to a place where Jimmy was saying, yeah, I'm not going to opt in. I'll play hard. It felt like when you were listening to all that stuff at the time that they had spoken. And if you've been to Heat practices, you walk in sometimes at the end of practice, you'll see Pat Riley sitting right there at a table, maybe Andy Ellisberg, maybe a couple, maybe even Mickey Harrison. So the opportunity just to have a quick face-to-face is always there. So I do think that there is something of a red flag there. I am curious, though, with Pat Riley, he seems to have maybe stepped back a little bit more on some things. You just don't know. I mean, he used to be the guy who would write the long hand letters to people, right? And then just have to communicate that way. And so I don't know if he really had to be hands-on with Jimmy outside of the contract conversation.
But my point is this is, okay, until I tell you at least 6 months, like a week, a month, that's one thing. 6 months.
What does that tell you, though, I mean?
Oh, man, it tells me that that's a very frayed relationship, right? Because these are two very proud people. I know Jimmy's going to say, look, it's not up to me to initiate that conversation. And Riles probably is going to say, yeah, well, you're the one that wants to have it so badly. Why don't you? And so it's two very strong-minded people. But like, I can't believe no one in the organization tried to make that happen on some level, like even getting them in an elevator together or something. I don't know. Obviously, Chris was incredible on DLS. You should check it out on YouTube if you get the chance. But some of the highlights, they talked about Jimmy's personal flights had been leaked that Jimmy was taking flights separate from the team. Chris clarified that 4 of the 5 flights in question were during the time when his father was sick during the NBA Finals in 2023. There was a clerical error where his paycheck came in late by 10 days or so.
Pointless nugget. Unless he's living paycheck to paycheck. Pointless nugget.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I get it. But I think the big thing is the latest news that Chris revealed on Haynes Briefs. You can catch that on YouTube as well. that the Heat are seeking to escalate the fine, right? So used to be when you get suspended, you are withheld a game check. And way, way back, it used to be your game check was literally what one game would be, 1 out of 82, right? And then my buddy Mark West, who I referenced, I think, yesterday on the show, got traded from Cleveland to Phoenix. And as a result, he ended up playing 84 games. And so his agent argued, you owe him 2 more game checks. He played 2 extra games than what he was supposed to play. And so as a result, the next collective bargaining agreement said, okay, we're going to call it 1/110th. And that should cover everything, playoffs, preseason, everything, right? In one of these recent CBA renegotiations, they did even more math, right? Where they said, okay, if you're suspended for more than 20 games, it's 1/110th. If you're suspended for less than 20 games, it's 1/140th or something like that. But
I got you so far.
But like, that's if you get suspended. Let's say if you had a DUI. Hey, this guy suspended 3 games. That's the fine structure there for the game checks. There is a separate fine for if the team says you are refusing to render services, either by sitting out or by like what the Heat are essentially accusing Jimmy of like not trying your hardest.
Conduct detrimental, right?
Yep. And so that one is 191.6. There it is. And that's literally the collective bargaining agreement. It's a screenshot of the collective bargaining agreement. And that the thing I want to talk about here, Izzy, is not is it right or is it wrong? It's how do you suppose that negotiation went between the Players Association and the league, where there's like 191st, no, 192nd. And they're like, all right, let's cut it down the middle. 91.5th. No way. We gave you guys no marijuana testing. we deserve a little bit more. 191.6.
This is wild to me. And like, I think it's hilarious. And if it's fitting that it's going to be Jimmy Butler that tests this particular thing. But this to me goes back to Pat Riley's pain from losing LeBron James and kind of getting played in that situation. And then not necessarily, because it's a different situation, right? Free agency versus demanding a trade. But when you talk about player empowerment, the Heat are sort of digging their feet in, preparing to say, hey, the only way we can fight this player empowerment movement is by letter of the law. So we're going to look at the contracts that you signed. We're going to look at the contract that the NBA Players Association has signed, and we are going to exhaust every single detail in our favor. And what can you say about that? Because you signed those agreements as well.
I think this is the hard part about this. This is the part where pettiness, for lack of a better word, is like slowly suffocating what could be a productive conversation. I do want to throw to this. I know we're up against time. I want to play what Dwayne Wade said on a recent podcast interview because it is an insight.
I wanted them to know that if you don't want to be here and the way things are working here and you don't like it and this and that, then don't be here. Because this is not the organization for that. And so the organization will not be ran in a way that is going to change to every star that come into the organization. LeBron James only stayed 4 years. It wasn't ran the way LeBron James needed it to be ran. It wasn't ran the way Dwayne Wade. It's ran the way Pat Riley's going to run it and the way Mick the Harrisons runs it.
And what happened when they run it that way? I mean, success.
Yes. But also, I think we should never be married. Like, this is like, it's not gospel. It's not the 10 Commandments. Like, we can have flexibility around these things. And so I think this is an example. Look, you made your point. You suspended him 7 games. You fined him. You held 7 game checks. To seek to make it a larger amount due to some gray area.
You think it's petty?
I just don't know where the win is. What are you winning here?
I will say this. I mean, the Heat weren't very flexible with Shaquille O'Neal. They weren't very flexible with LeBron James.
Yeah.
When we go back and we find out all the finer details, you'll find they were more flexible with Jimmy Butler than any of those other guys, which is why Pat is kind of acting this way.
Let's do this. I want to take a break. And when we come back, take the teams in the East and let's put them in a list by tiers. Oh, it's Oddball. Welcome back to Oddball. Izzy Gutierrez here with me. I'm Amin Elhassan. Izzy, last segment we were kind of talking about the Miami Heat. They're at a crossroads with this whole Jimmy Butler situation. They're also at a crossroads in the middle of the Eastern Conference, which is completely jumbled at the moment. There is no clarity. Yeah, meet me at the crossroads, right? So this is what we're going to do as a service to the public because the public loves lists. That's what algorithm tells me. Or it's algorithm from the Space Jam movie. Never mind. The algorithm tells me people love lists. And so what we're going to do is we're going to divide the Eastern Conference into tiers. And we've got 5 categories. We got title contenders. We got the dark horses. We got playoff locks. We got playing hopefuls. And Cameron crazies, basically. Yeah, I'll see you in Secaucus for the draft lottery. Let's get the does out of the way, shall we?
I'm kind of a duh guy. The Cameron crazies. We'll get those out of the way. Are these the teams that have the most Camerons on them? These are the teams that just have no shot, right? That's the Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, the Toronto Raptors, the Brooklyn Nets. Like, okay, we'll put them in that category. We've got the team that lives in the play-in mode is the Chicago Bulls. So you know they're super comfortable there. They're going to be the play-in team. And then you've got the Celtics.
They're the Van Wilder of play-in, right?
And then you've got the defending champs, the Celtics. Obviously have to put them up there with the title contenders, despite the fact they lost to the Raptors last night, despite the fact that they're 7-7 in their last 14, and despite the fact that Jason Tatum Olympics revenge tour lasted about a month because he's back to people just killing him for not being the leader and the dominant player that he needs to be.
Shout out to Brandon Jennings. All right. So now that we've got those out of the way, let's bring up some names that we can argue about, Izzy. What do we got?
We got the Cavaliers. They're 34-5. I mean, I don't know how you don't have them in the contender status, but I've got them in contender status.
You got a contender status. See, I'm one of those. I'm like Stugatz in the way I'll say, you got to prove it to me. This is a roster that has one guy who's made it out of the first round. And that guy hasn't made it out of the second round. And he's been banging against that door for a while. Yes, they've been the best team in the league this year. Yes, they've been amazing. I'm still I don't put them on the same level as the Celtics. I think the Celtics have earned the right to be thought of as better. So I got them as a dark horse. Let me put it this way. If the Cavs won the championship, I think we'd all be shocked.
Well, I'll give you not the favorites despite their record, but you have to put them in a contender status. I mean, it's not like the rest of the East is going to scare you, right? If you line them up against the Celtics right now in a series, I'd say, you know what? I think the Cavs have a chance.
I think the Cavs have a chance. I'm just saying, I don't know if I can give them the same respect as the Celtics in that regard because just of everything, of every part of it. The counterpoint is in 2015, we would have said the same thing about the Warriors. Right?
Okay. Right. No, you're right. And you had to show it first. So we can sort of hang them in between dark horse and contender for now. How's that?
Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got the New York Knickerbockers who send lovely press releases thanking Congress people for things. Their record is 27-15. They're plus 400 to win the East. They're dark horses, right? Like there's no part of this where you're like, that could be a team that represents the East in the finals for real.
Don't know because I kind of want to have them linger there in that Cavs situation and that in between contenders and dark horse. What makes them to me a dark horse and not immediately at contender status is that that video I sent you, that 7 of the top 3-man lineups in terms of minutes played are New York Knicks combinations. And the reason I've got them down for dark horse because I think they've got a great balance. I think Mikal Bridges can be that guy that wins you a game every series and doesn't, he kind of comes out of nowhere. But I think they're going to be exhausted. And I don't think they're going to be able to last that long. And that's why I drop them down to dark horse if I had to.
We're literally headed right for the same spot that they went last year, where they just all fell apart right in front of our eyes. And who could have seen that coming, right? But the other reason is, Izzy, much like I said, you got to respect the Celtics. You can't put the Cavs on the same level. You got to respect the Cavs. You can't put the Knicks on the same level. You gonna put those two together? It's night and day, man.
Did you see the playoff series a couple of years ago between the Cavs and the Knicks?
That was 2 years ago. It's a different time, different teams. All right. What do we got
Different
next?
team here is this Philadelphia 76ers. They're 15-24. I thought they'd be worse than this at this point just because you never know who's going to play on any given night. Nothing about Embiid gives me confidence that they're going to go very far. So I think I've just got them in play-in hopefuls at this point.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. This is the rare play-in hopeful that is also a dark horse, right? Because on the one hand, the hole that I said early in the season, look, if they can get healthy by Christmas or New Year's, they still got plenty of season left in order to dig themselves out of there. As of right now, they are in the 11th spot. They are 6 games back of Indiana for the 6th seed. Not entirely impossible, but also not, as long as people keep staying hurt, nothing about this gives me any kind of confidence that they're going to get it together. So yeah,
true or
playing
false?
hopeful.
Paul George seems more engaged podcasting than he does playing basketball right now.
No comment.
I mean, he said I'm bored recently, so
He said to be fair,
no
he was
context
bored.
necessary. I mean, let's go to the next team.
Next team, Orlando Magic, everyone's darling sweetheart of even when you cut off my legs and tie my hand behind my back, I'm still here. 23-19. They are at plus 2,000 to win the East. Franz Wagner has returned to competitive conditioning after the oblique tear. Obviously, Paolo Banchero is back. We've seen him. He's been pretty good. Where is he for you?
I've got them. Wow, look at the Magic just all over the place. You never know. I've got them at dark horse. I think they need to make a move. Yes, I think. By the way, I was a little confused earlier as to which Wagner was missing most of the time. Mo Wagner is the least important of the two, so he's out for the year, but he was still a big piece. I think they need one offensive upgrade, and defensively, they're already there. So if Paolo just doesn't get hurt again, I think they're a dark horse. I could absolutely see them as sort of this year's Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm saying playoff lock, man.
Okay.
I just they are put them there, like bumping up against that threshold. I like them. I think they're overachievers though. And so overachievers typically 2023 Heat notwithstanding typically don't make deep runs. You win
it's funny you make that comparison because I called Paolo Banchero Jimmy Butler 2.0, a little bigger, a little stronger, maybe a little bit more offensive game at this point in his career. And so I think he could absolutely carry a team like that.
All right, let's go there. Yeah.
Let's go to the Bucks. I mean, we can just fly by this one. I have no idea really what to think of this team. I don't think Damian Lillard is going to be any different come playoffs. It's not like playoff Damian's going to show up. I see them as like a second round out regardless. I'll just put them as a playoff lock. That's about it.
Me too. I tried an NBA Cup. I was squinting. I said, maybe they're getting it together. And then they kind of were like very middling since Vegas. It wasn't
not Giannis's fault.
Yeah. It's not Giannis's fault. It might be Doc's fault. Either way, I'm all right with just keeping them where you got them as a playoff lock. All right, let's get real sexy here, Izzy. The Pistons, the Detroit Pistons, the once forgotten Pistons. They're 21-19, but they're 10-2 in their last 12. They had a big win at Madison Square Garden the other night, plus 25,000 to win the East. Izzy, where do you have the Pistons?
Let's get sexy with it and go to the D. I do believe that I will take a $5 flyer on that plus 25,000 to win the East. Here's why I have to eat a little bit of crow. I mean, I think I was a guest on the show recently, early this season, maybe right before the season started. And I think my quote on Cade Cunningham was, "It's just okay." And I still think that he is not the number one on a championship level team. I still think I watched him so much last year. I was just like, wow, it's amazing what a good coach and some good teammates will do for you, but I still don't think he is that guy. However, I think this is a very well-rounded team. I think, any team with a Thompson on it, I'm a huge fan of, and Asar's been getting into a rhythm lately. I've got them, man, they're in the play. They're kind of hovering between playoff lock and play-in situation there because I think they could actually be really good. I think they could make one more move. I heard, you brought them up in terms of a three-way trade with Miami and maybe getting Bradley Beal. I think they're a move away from being a playoff lock.
Yeah, I think you can't call them a playoff lock. No. Playoff lock means they're going to make the playoffs, right? The Cavs are playoff lock. The Celtics are playoff lock, right? It's a minimum threshold. If you're flirting with it you're not a play-in hopeful. They're definitely not play-in hopefuls. They're definitely going to be in the play-in with a chance to maybe make the playoffs. So maybe we put them right at the top of the play-in hopeful thing. Then, I guess we got them halfway.
It almost feels like we needed another tier. By the way, the Pistons 10-2 in their last 12, so they could go on a considerable streak here and become a playoff lock.
Steve Martin. All right, who else we got?
Sorry, I was looking at the beautiful tiers system that we have here. Let's go to the Hawks here because this is another interesting one, and I kind of want to see the Hawks flying around the screen as well. They, in their last 15 games with Jalen Johnson, because I loved him as an addition, are 11-4. And when he's in there, they're really good. They've got Dyson Daniels with 3.1 steals per game right now. This kind of reminds me, talk about the throwback, of what Larry Brown and the Sixers did for Allen Iverson, just basically surrounding him with rebounders and defenders and Dikembe Mutombo and sort of getting the best out of him. And that's what we're doing here with Trae Young. I think this team, Amin, is a dark horse. I've got them that high up because I believe Trae Young, if everybody's healthy around him and he finds their rhythm, Trae knows how to, win in these situations, but he also loves to be the villain. And he knows he wants those big moments, and the bigger the moment, the better he gets. I see this team as a potential dark horse.
You're going to put $5 on the Pistons at plus 25,000, but not $5 on the Hawks at plus 10,000?
$10. $10 on
$10. Wow. I don't know how you have the Hawks above the Magic, man. You're being disrespectful today, man. I've got them with the Pistons because there's a strong chance. Look, we earlier I called the Bulls the Van Wilder of play-in because they never graduate or whatever. But the Hawks and this next team we're about to talk about are very familiar with play-in land as well. The Miami Heat. They're 20-19. They're plus 3,500 to win the East. Markedly different odds, and that's because, hey, look, we've seen them do it before, and so we give them that grace, I guess. Izzy, it feels like I don't want to taint your answer, but it feels like a gross malfeasance if we have them any higher than the Hawks and the Pistons.
It will definitely not be higher than the Hawks and the Pistons. I mean, you definitely overestimate my interest in having the Heat succeed here. Look, Tyler Herro is the only reason they're hanging on. Otherwise, they'd be in the Cameron Crazies. Idris Adebayo had a 7-shot performance, a 7 field goal attempt performance last night, which did not pair well with Tyler Herro's 34-point game. I think they're hinging right there between play-in hopefuls and Cameron Crazies. But let's be fair. Let's cozy them right in between the Bulls and the Sixers, because wasn't that the two teams that they last had to get through to get to the play-in, right? They lost to the Sixers and then beat the Bulls. So let's put them right there, because I wouldn't be surprised if that's the exact same path they have to go through.
The funny thing is, the way this is playing out is that we're going to have like 11 teams for what should be 10 spots. Mm-hmm. So, but they're playing hopefuls, right? Like it gives us the grace that, hey, an 11 seed is a play-in hopeful. All right. The next team is who? The Pacers.
Oh, I'll take this one. I mean, because they're only plus 3,000, right? But we got we know Tyrese Halliburton is the key to this team, right? We know they want to run, and if they can defend, then they are a legitimate team, right? And I'm gonna give you a number here on a player, and some numbers here on a player that most people probably don't even think is this much of an impact on a team. Andrew Nembhard, his on-off numbers, second highest in the league, behind who? Nikola Jokic. Okay. Yep. And it is wild. And by the way, who's third is SGA. And so this guy defensively MVP? Is huge for this team. Now, those numbers kind of went down a little bit because Tyrese missed a game and they got clobbered. And so those on-off numbers aren't the same as they were, let's say, on January 12th. But if he can sort of lead this team to play any sort of defense, I think I've got them in the sort of lingering between dark horse and playoff lock, but I'll firmly put them in there at playoff lock.
What I'm hearing from you is that Andrew Nembhard should be in the MVP conversation bar, right there with his other fellow plus minus.
You just did it. You just put him in the conversation. So
it's a bar. So like some people can get in. It's complicated. I'll explain to you later. But I agree with you, because I think the other name with regards to Pacers defense is Aaron Nesmith, and I think he's a huge part of what they were able to do last year defensively in order to win playoff series. And the thing that people need to remember is last year they didn't have Benedict Mathurin. He got hurt in the middle of the year, so he missed a lot of the fun stuff. So in essence, in a playoff kind of scenario, Indiana's probably even more dangerous than they were last year, even though they're not playing quite yet as well as they did last year at this point.
Pacers Hawks would be a really fun playoff series.
Yeah, it would. It'd be on NBA TV though. So all right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at this board. Are we happy with this? We got the Celtics as the lone title contender. I know you have thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that they are clear in a way the favorites, but you have to respect them. I think this list looks perfect. I think if you would have started the season and put this list together, you say, well, it's a little wacky. The Cavaliers, what are they supposed to be? What are they doing up there? But as this season has played out, that's pretty much exactly how it should be pictured right now.
It's time for another edition of Hot Streak. Hot Streak? Hot Streak. Hot Streak is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned, because you'll hear more about DraftKings and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Oh, yeah.
What's the segment called again, Amin?
Hot Streak.
Hot Streak. Wasn't sure.
So our bet from Monday that wasn't the Pistons plus 8, because somebody had a good feeling about the Houston Rockets.
What do you mean? I wasn't wrong.
We pushed. They ended up beating the Grizzlies 120-118. So we technically haven't gotten a pick wrong in 2025, but we've got to give this streak another go. So maybe it's a not losing streak that we're starting as opposed to a winning streak.
I like it.
Let's get hot. Here are the games we're looking at tonight. The marquee game of the night is the Cavs at the Thunder. Cavs are +3. Izzy, I got all sorts of PR emails from the league. They're marketing this game as the rematch because the teams played last week and the Cavs won that matchup in Cleveland, 129-122. It was an amazing game. This one is going to be played in Oklahoma City. So I guess let's start there, Izzy. What are your thoughts?
If this was an NBA Finals matchup, it would be on NBA TV. I do think the Thunder are going to take this one. But I also think the Cavs have great road numbers. And so it's kind of a tricky one here, especially since the Cavs won the last time. I'm not too comfortable with it. I kind of want to look at the next game.
Yeah, this one is like it's too close to call, right? Like, don't they do that on election night when they're like, I don't know, I don't want to say anything. I do know that this is like the best records of two teams from opposite conferences ever in NBA history playing against each other. So there's a lot there. I'm with you though. Let's avoid it. Let's see what else we got. We got Rockets +4 at Sacramento, right? Kings are coming off the loss to the Bucks that snapped that 7-game winning streak under new head coach Doug Christie. The Rockets are coming off that 20-point ass whooping they handed to the Denver Nuggets. Jalen Green had 34 last night. He's averaging 32 for the Rockets over the last 6 games. Izzy, how do you feel about that one?
This might be a head scratcher of a line. I don't really understand it. I know they're on a back-to-back, but the Rockets, they're really young. At least some of their players, the good players are really young. I'm in love with this pick. I'll take the Rockets +4.
I'm going to follow Izzy because technically he didn't lead us wrong last time when he picked the Rockets.
Follow my heart.
That's going to do it for Oddball. Have a good weekend. Michael Jordan's the GOAT.